Julian Assange arrived in Australia as a free man after reaching a guilty plea agreement with the US justice system that put an end to over a decade of persecution. In Palestine, the Israeli regime on Gaza continues. Occupation forces killed at least 28 Palestinians in the last hours as the humanitarian crisis deteriorates by the day. And in Kenya, President William Ruto said he would not sign the finance bill that led to massive protests that ended with hundreds detained and at least 22 people killed. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Julian Assange arrived in Australia as a free man after reaching a guilty plea agreement with the US justice system that put an end to over a decade of persecution against the founder of WikiLeaks. Assange's wife Stella and his father welcomed him after getting off the plane at the Canberra airport. Previously, Magistrate Ramona Villagomez Manglona of the US Federal Court of the Northern Mariana Islands recognized the agreement between the sides by which the founder of WikiLeaks pleaded guilty to a serious crime under the U.S. Espionage Act of 1917. This occurred as the U.S. justice system decided to acknowledge the 5 years Assange served in prison in the United Kingdom, where he fought to avoid being extradited to the U.S. Let's see Julian Assange's profile. He was born on July 3rd of 1971 in Queensland, Australia. During his youth, Assange had a solid background in physics and mathematics. Later, he delved into philosophy and neuroscience. In 1995, he created Strobe, the first free and open port scanner, and participated in the invention of a cryptographic concept. In the meantime, he helped to write the Underground book, which ushered his habit for researching. In December 2006, he joined a group of human rights activists and experts in media and technology to create WikiLeaks, an uncensorable version of Wikipedia, dedicated to the mass publication and analysis of secret documents while keeping their authors anonymous. In 2010, the website brought to light confidential information about war crimes committed by the United States, thus starting a persecution against Assange.
Julian wanted me to sincerely thank everyone. He wanted to be here. But you have to understand what he's been through. He needs time. He needs to recuperate. And this is a process. I ask you, please, to give us space, to give us privacy.
In the meantime, Jennifer Robinson, Julian Assange's lawyer, emphasized in a press conference that Assange's case is a criminalization of journalism and that it leaves a very negative scenario for those who practice this profession in the world.
The terms of the plea deal are, unfortunately, that he, in order to achieve his freedom and to leave the high security prison in Belmarsh, he had to choose to plead guilty to conspiracy to commit espionage for publishing evidence of US war crimes, human rights abuse. In order to win his freedom, Julian pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit espionage for publishing evidence of US war crimes, human rights abuse and US wrongdoing around the world. This is journalism. This is the criminalisation of journalism. And while the plea deal does not set a judicial precedent, it's not a court decision, the prosecution itself sets a precedent that can be used against the rest of the media.
In other news, the outgoing Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Mark Rutte, has been chosen as the next NATO Secretary General. He will take up his post from October 2024 when Jens Stoltenberg's term expires. Stoltenberg, through his X account, warmly welcomed the election of NATO allies of Minister Mark Rutte as his successor. He described Rutte as a true transatlantic, a strong leader and a consensus builder. He wished Rutte every success as they continue to strengthen NATO and was confident about leaving NATO in good hands. On repeated occasions, Rutte has shown his unquestioning support for the Kiev regime and expressed his fierce criticism of Moscow and in particular Russian President Vladimir Putin. Mark Rutte is the outgoing Prime Minister of the Netherlands and will take office at the head of NATO on October 1st. The 57-year-old Dutchman headed his country's government for 14 years. Rutte is a staunch ally of Kiev and has spearheaded an initiative to provide the country with F-16 fighter jets. Among the biggest challenges he could face, according to experts, is keeping NATO united if Donald Trump regains the U.S. presidency. It is worth noting that Ruto's country has pledged military hardware to Kiev but failed to meet the NATO target of spending 2% of its GDP on defense. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. As Venezuela and China celebrate 50 years of diplomatic relations, the nation's foolproof bilateral cooperation in various areas has achieved important feats at the academic level with the training and exchange of professionals. Let's see more in the following brief.
Thousands of Venezuelan professionals are specializing in Chinese universities. This exchange occurs thanks to the ties of friendship that unite both nations, which in June will celebrate 50 years of diplomatic relations.
My name is Aymara Herdel. I am the director of the Venezuelan Center for Studies on China and the Center for a Community of a Shared Future between China and Venezuela. Both are research centers dedicated to the study of bilateral relations between the People's Republic of China and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. My particular relationship with China started progressively. I began to study Chinese as a foreign language, and later I applied for a scholarship offered by the Chinese government, and I obtained a scholarship to study for a master's degree. We have been developing an editorial project for 4 years now, publishing different works related to the relations between China and Latin America or China and Venezuela.
Aymara, as well as thousands of other Venezuelans, recognize China as one of the most important allies in Latin America and the Caribbean, mainly in Venezuela, where energy, aeronautical, scientific, technological, and infrastructure cooperation projects are being conducted.
I deem that understanding China is fundamental in this century, and it is crucial to boost the development and cooperation of our countries. It is a strategic partner. China and Venezuela have an all-weather and foolproof partnership, and that implies, from a political point of view, a very deep sisterhood and cooperation in different sectors. Countries of the region are somehow described by China as developing countries, but nowadays China identifies itself as a developing country too. This fact somehow facilitated to boost cooperation mechanisms such as South-South cooperation. In this regard, there are common struggles that both nations are somehow involved in. For example, the fight against poverty, and this is a battle that Latin American countries are currently fighting off. So China sees us as allied countries. With which it can cooperate jointly and understands that the problems and future welfare of humanity depends on the fact that the southern countries, or the nations that are called developing countries, can solve their problems of water access, can solve their problems of getting access to quality education. My expectations for the future relation between China and Venezuela is the strengthening of cooperation in areas that are strategic for national development, in the case of Venezuela. So in that sense, I think that cooperation in infrastructure is pivotal. My main wish is that the relations between both countries continues to be a harmonious one. The concept of harmony in Chinese culture is very noteworthy because it somehow materializes a long and lasting friendship.
En la cultura china es muy importante porque de alguna forma materializa una amistad larga y duradera.
I think that it is one of the main bases of the relation or the bond that unites both countries. On the other hand, I deem the relation not only must be consolidated at a high level, but also it must be consolidated between the peoples. Brotherhood between peoples is very crucial to make this relation fruitful, solid, and lasting.
Muy importante para hacer que esta relación sea fructífera, sólida y duradera.
Beyond the diplomatic relations between the governments of China and Venezuela, the ties between the two nations are considered an all-weather and foolproof friendship.
On Tuesday, Colombian President Gustavo Petro commented on the controversy of alleged wiretapping in communications carried out by his government.
However, today and yesterday we got up early reading that we are the ones who are doing the dirty work. That the government is intervening the same people or the same offices. Judges and opposition members, who are today supporters of Uribe and members of the press. I ask myself, if we were the victims, how can we now do the same against them?
The Colombian president denounced that certain sectors of the opposition are trying to destabilize the government through the use of fake news.
They are trying to weaken the government by breaking its internal relations and its relations with the other branches of government with fake news. And the press, without investigating, is reproducing them, turning them into valid news. It is the Goebbels tactic. Repeat and repeat the same lie and something will stick.
In Ecuador on Tuesday at the Northern Judicial Center in Quito, a trial set off to prosecute the 5 defendants charged with the assassination of journalist and former legislator Fernando Villavicencio. In life, Villavicencio used to face life threats due to his work as he disclosed corruption and links between organized crime and politicians. In August 2023, he was shot dead when leaving a campaign meeting. One hitman died at the crime scene and 7 more were murdered while on precautionary prison. 2 of the remaining accused, including Laura Castillo, have been revealed by prosecutors as suspected leaders of Los Lobos gang. In this regard, both Castillo's lawyer and the attorney for Fernando's daughters, Ricardo Vanegas, shared their opinions on the case.
What has been pointed out today is that there was indeed a fee set for Fernando's life, which was established at $200,000, and according to what the expert who was in charge of the transcription of the video said, the order came from Korea's government. It is a crime that could have been avoided because evidently he was a high risk and the national police had the obligation to protect him, which they didn't do. They received information that they needed to provide him with more protection, and in spite of that, agents didn't dispatch him. On the day the events occurred, Laura Castillo was detained for another crime she had allegedly committed, but it has nothing to do with the case we are dealing with today, criminal court.
On Wednesday, at least 28 Palestinians were killed in Israeli shelling of homes in the Gaza Strip as the humanitarian crisis deteriorates day by day. In this context, according to civil defense rescue teams, at least 13 bodies were recovered from the rubble after an Israeli attack on a house belonging to the Al-Dali family in the Al-Darash neighborhood, while another 15 Gazans were also killed in another attack on the house of the Abu Awad family in the northern Gaza Strip. Since the beginning of its genocidal war, Israel has killed 37,658 Palestinians, most of them children and women, while more than 10,000 people are missing. As the Israeli forces continue to pound Gaza, Palestinians across the world join the resistance from afar. That is the story of Samar and Moti, young Palestinians who are studying medicine in Cuba while joining the international claim to stop the genocide. Let's see.
The brutal impact of the genocidal war in Gaza is felt thousands of kilometers away. In Cuba, dozens of young Palestinians studying medicine on the island follow the Israeli siege from afar. Samar is 21 years old. In Havana, she found the possibility of fulfilling her dream of studying medicine. However, the distance from her loved ones in this context is very difficult to bear.
It is easier for me to be with them than to wonder. What are they drinking? What are they eating? Where are they sleeping? Wondering if they are okay.
In this way, Palestinian students in Cuba follow the atrocious attacks by the State of Israel on their homes. Moti is from Rafah, the southern Gaza city that the Zionist army decided to invade in May, despite the alarms of the international community and the warnings of the highest court of the United Nations.
In the first days of that month, my grandparents' house was bombed, my cousins died, 3 of my uncles, an aunt and my grandmother died, all from my mother's side of the family.
At present, there are 247 young Palestinians studying medicine free of charge through scholarships granted by the Cuban state. This is part of a long tradition of solidarity and cooperation that is still maintained today. The Palestinian ambassador in Cuba explains that after October 7th, they have had to organize themselves to economically support the students, especially those from Gaza.
They are not receiving now any financial help from their families because they cannot afford it. So we are trying, since the end of October, between November and December, those months, through the help of our embassy, which is a little help, but we do it. Or we organize help from other Palestinian institutions abroad.
The Palestinian cause is particularly significant in Cuba, where the tradition of training future Palestinian doctors has allowed some 1,500 students to graduate since 1974. In this context, and beyond the difficulty imposed by the distance, the students know that their training is one more step for the resistance of the Palestinian people.
We Palestinians used to think that we were the only ones defending the Palestinian cause. But what is happening, or what the students are doing, has changed the way we think about the outside world.
We have a fun short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly, share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Fun short break, don't go away. Welcome back. Kenya's President William Ruto said he would not sign the finance bill that led to massive protests that ended with hundreds detained and at least 22 people killed. After a day marked by murderous repression, the move can be seen as a major victory for the protest movement that grew from online condemnations of the proposed tax increases into mass rallies demanding a political overhaul in the most serious crisis of Ruto's 2-year-old presidency. Tensions spiked on Tuesday as the Parliament of Kenya passed the bill. Police used tear gas, water cannon and rubber bullets on crowds in Nairobi. A report of live rounds being fired were also issued. President Ruto then decided to deploy the military on Tuesday. He stated that the bill containing tax hikes would be withdrawn.
Consequently, having reflected On the continuing conversation around the content of the Finance Bill 2024, and listening keenly to the people of Kenya who have said loudly that they want nothing to do with this Finance Bill 2024, I concede, and therefore I will not sign the 2024 Finance Bill, and it shall subsequently be withdrawn, and I have agreed with these members that that becomes our collective position.
In this context, the Kenyan government requested support of the International Monetary Fund in order to solve its liquidity problems and pay its public debt. The nation's public debt is reported to be more than 68% of its gross domestic product, a figure higher than the one recommended by the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Both agencies urged the government of the African country to meet revenue targets to access more international financing. Kenya is a key ally of the United States, and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization has expressed its support to Western countries regarding their position on Ukraine, assuring that the Russian special operation is illegal. The Argentine national team achieved on Tuesday an agonizing and costly victory over Chile by 1-0 and sealed the pass to the quarterfinals of the Copa America 2024 in the framework of the second match day of Group A. Lautaro Martinez scored with only 2 minutes left in the match play at the MetLife Stadium in New Jersey and gave the victory to the team. With this result, the national team reached 6 points and is at the top of its group. Argentina has already secured in the next stage as Canada is in second with 3 points, while Chile and Peru close the group with 1 point.
Happy, super happy. The truth is that we're proud to be Argentinians. They have been representing us very well. They played well. It was not like the first game, but we are happy that we won because the most important thing is that they scored a goal, and we will always support the national team with all our hearts, and we will follow them all over the world.
Well, it was a difficult match, as it always is with Argentina. It's hard for us to play against them. In the end, the match came down to one plate, and we lost.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.